Streaming live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. Towercoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgett.
Hi, welcome to another edition of ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, broadcasting from Moriarty, New Mexico, and we got Dennis, our co-host and producer of the show, broadcasting from St. Louis, Missouri. Pretty beautiful day out here. I think that we're at the beginnings of spring, I hope. What's it like out there, Dennis? I think you said it was pretty decent there where you're at.
Yeah, it's finally warming up quite a bit. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely warming up. I think we're going to be in the upper 60s this week, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think we're about the same. So it's such a beautiful day today and no wind, which is kind of an anomaly here. I'm going to actually go climb my tower up on the top of the mountain and try to focus in my SAF gear to finish that project up. Just a beautiful day out here. Beautiful day to be an ISP.
Yeah. Well, we don't get too many of them. It looks like the winter's starting to break. I think we're going to get another blast or two, but at least the winter's starting to break. And I do know lots and lots of WISPs that are getting started, definitely doing lots of upgrades. We have lots of gear, lots of great information. I know we have lots of people interested in our Telerad product that we've been starting to sell now, so that's always good. Lots of people upgrading their network, so it is what it is. It's the time that the WISPs start doing all their hard work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I was doing yesterday, or actually last Friday and yesterday, was I upgraded a site that really needed it. A lot of growth and a lot of heavy users of the net. I upgraded it and I used an OmniTick and got rid of all the coax and ran an OmniTick with a couple of Ubiquity rockets to provide the internet, and that OmniTick running the Ethernet to it works like a charm. And I also tried out a pair of those new highly sensitive microtick dishes with I don't know if it's a metal on it, but that worked like a charm. Really pleased to see how those performed.
Yeah, the metals and the Microtech dishes, the dishes are actually quite good. Their front-to-back ratio is really good. For all practical purposes, they're actually a really good dish. And for the money, it's hard to beat. They do cost a little bit to ship, but a lot of customers, they just order a pallet at a time. That way they have them. And they use them for even CPEs. They put 5 gig base boxes on them, which is a good AC, a good AC client, and that gives them a 30 dB gain, so quite a bit if needed. And there's radomes you can get for those as well.
Yeah. Oh, do they have a radome for it?
Yeah. There's a radome for it as well. And Microtech actually has a number of new products out, actually, that we're going to talk about just in the little news segment. I don't have much today.
How about something like RF Armor for I know it's a little bit bigger dish, but do they have something like an RF Armor for those things yet?
I do not.
Or just a plastic radome?
It's just a plastic radome. Yeah, I mean, typically, to be honest with you, even though I like the RF Armor products, there's nothing wrong with them, and I don't want to speak badly about any vendor, and I'm not going to. But the big key here, and this we see in the LTE market space as well, is that whenever you use very inexpensive gear, and not saying that you can't do it for inexpensive, but typically that inexpensive gear comes at a cost, and most people don't think about that cost. So the example I'll use is whenever you use a Ubiquity sector versus something like a Telerad 365 sector or something like that, there's a huge cost difference in between there. We're talking, $1,000 versus $200, and because of that, we also get much better specs. The front-back to ratios are insane, and typically the need for something like a Armor product is not necessarily required because everything's built into it. We see this as well when we look at other product vendors. So I'm going to, again, pick on Ubiquiti. Ubiquiti was first to market, so they have their place. But then we have another company called Bitlomat. And Bitlomat makes similar products, but what they did is they took the middle-of-the-road approach. So with Ubiquiti, you have a plastic box, plastic enclosure, plastic piece of gear. Nothing wrong with that, but all that allows for RF intrusion. And then that has cables that go to a plastic antenna. Now we see with like Bitlomat, what they do is they make a completely integrated sector that has the backplating in it already, has the metal already in it, the shielding per se. So what you get is you get a product that has basically the shielding, etc., already in it, so you don't have to add those RF Armor products. And I'm not saying which one is better or worse. I bet you in the end the RF Armor product is probably, quote, better as far as isolation, etc. But it's an add-on. It's an extra product, and it drives up the cost. So whenever you have to look at it, you have to look at it as, hey, I can buy a Ubiquiti sector or some other sector with RF Armor, or I can just buy a good sector. And usually those prices are comparable, etc. So.
Yeah, no, I bought after we had Dave on the show with Bitlomat, I bought a sector of his, and it's performing outstanding across multiple platforms. So
yeah, they work pretty dang good for what they are. And then we go up into, like I said, the space of like the P2P 450s, or I'm sorry, the PMP 450s in Cadmium's line. Now you even have a better RF shielded product with a better antenna. And then you go all the way up into the LTE space. Now you have a carrier grade base station that is designed through software upgrading as well, designed to last 8 years instead of 2 years through multiple revisions of technology, and a sector that can go along with that. So again, you're buying, it's all as my grandfather always said, you always pay for what you get. And if you want to put the money investment in so you can upgrade throughout the next 8 years, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. So you spoke about some news. What's the news about Microtech? I think they've got a MUM coming up in Europe soon, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they actually have a couple MUMs going on. They always do. There's actually one coming up in the United States here in Miami on April 23rd and 24th. That is coming up. I will be there, and my company will be there. So if you are going to head out to there, beautiful, warm area, Miami, I look forward to seeing you as well. They also released a couple extra little products. Some of those are already in stock. Some of them are not. One of them is a HAP light, which is basically a home access point light. And it does some things with WPS, so that you can do a button-triggered WPS. Things like that. Dual chain 2.4 still already on it. 4 fast Ethernet ports. All that kind of good stuff is already in there. But the retail price on that's going to be $22. So, think of one of the little 750s that you've probably seen before. Except this has 4 ports. They're using the PoE jack to power it now. Or, I'm sorry, not the PoE jack, the USB jack. So they're saving costs because they're using basically a USB power adapter instead of the old 18-volt power adapters, if you know what I mean. And you know how many of those input voltages, those USB power adapters, there's tons of those out there because of cell phones. Mm-hmm. And because of that, that's how one of the ways you can save some funding. So we have that. Obviously, we have some PoE out features on many new router boards. The 2011 has a UI version that has a single port PoE out if you need one of those. We have the old 951Us, which give you a single PoE out for your CPE device as well. Microtech actually took a really good idea. They had another product called a 750 UP. And this was basically a little 5-port router / switch, and it had 4 ports PoE out. What was nice, though, is you could do PoE in and 4-port PoE out, which is nice. The problem with the 750 UP was that they didn't really have an outdoor version. There was not a a way to easily mount that outside. So what they did is they basically took that 750 UP and tossed it into a outdoor enclosure that is waterproof, all that kind of stuff, and now we have what's called the Power Box. They also increased it. They can do 2 amp, 1 amp per port. Total max is 2 amps. So less power adapters, less cables. You run one Ethernet cable up with one power jack, and now you have 4 PoEs at the top. Or you can, for a long run, that is an easy way to extend a long run, and it's weatherproof.
Yeah, kind of like what the Omnitic does, but without the built integrated 5 gig.
I know a lot of
duckies on it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that they use the Omnitic UP for that purpose. They'll turn off the wireless just so they can have one Ethernet cable going up and 4 PoE outs to power other radios. And I've seen that many times, and it does obviously work quite well. But now they have made a version that's roughly half the cost of the Omnitic, because it doesn't have the wireless in it in the antennas. I believe the retail on that's $69. They also make a quick mount, which is a nifty little mounting system for their SXT 90-degree sectors. Kind of a nifty little thing there. Again, if you are on Microtech's list, or if you hit linktex.net, I'm sure you'll see those. And then the very last thing, which is a new cloud core router. Very similar to what most people have been using. This is a 1009. Giving us 8 copper, giving us 1 SFP 1 gig and 1 SFP 10 gig. And it is in a heat pipe system, completely silent, no moving parts, and has a large cooling fin on the back. The whole ideal here is so that we have a passive cooling enclosure. So in other words, this unit is designed to shed that heat out the back and run completely without moving parts. So kind of nifty as well. And as you said, there is the European mum. I believe that one's going to be, I'm trying to remember, that's in the Prague again.
Yeah.
Which I know the last person that attended that said that was a blast over there. But as I said, we do have the Miami, Florida mum, April 23rd, 24th. With that said, pretty much the other big item would be still Wispapalooza. Still months away, but October coming up. Make sure you get signed up. If you are not a WISPA member, hit WISPA up, sign up. If you sign up to become a WISPA member, typically you will have a substantial cost savings. In many cases, at or more of your membership dues on tickets to Wispapalooza. So if you have 2 or 3 people you're going to send, it's definitely beneficial for you to sign up with them as well. Plus, you get all the other advantages. And with this uncertain area that we're in currently with Title II regulations, we're still waiting for this RNO, the report and order from the FCC, to release all this data. It's all up in the air, and I know a lot of people, if you are not in WISPA or a trade organization that can analyze that and give you the information that you need, I would highly suggest you getting into that, because it is going to be needed. You are going to need to get in there and to understand how these how Title II will affect you. And the simplest and easiest and most cost-effective way of doing that is to be inside an organization that's going to analyze it for you and give you that statistics and information as well.
Right. Which is WISPA and listening to our show.
Yep, there you go.
Well, on today's show, we had a quick-to-respond guest today. I met them at the Wispalooza last year, and they made some T-shirts for me that I really liked. And on today's show, we have Towerone Inc., Nick Reedman. Nick, you there?
Yep, still here.
Yeah, Nick's out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Towerone. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and then, of course, Towerone.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate having us on the show today and just giving us kind of a venue to get our information out to everyone. Myself, I have a more IT background, technology background. Kind of growing up as just a typical IT worker. And with that, kind of got me into wireless because I was the young guy that needed to go on top of the buildings and adjust all the radios when they got spun around in the storm. So from there, kind of got more and more into the wireless, thought it was really interesting. Got involved with WISPA several years ago. Ended up running my own ISP for a couple years. And then in that process, through WISPA, I met my partner, Lee Loker. And he's been a tower climber for years. And since owning a WISP, been doing work for other companies, I was getting into that quite a bit. So we got a lot of exposure working with a number of other businesses and seeing how they kind of did things, and really opened our eyes to see, wow, there was a big variation between companies we thought were being safe and doing things correctly and what OSHA actually said you're supposed to be doing. So from that, we just it pushed us to really research a lot, go through a lot of training, and then several people were asking, what's the right way to do things. So a couple years ago, Lee and I started Towerone Inc. With the primary goal of educating everyone who's going up on heights. We see a lot of different things, a lot of crazy things where guys are just climbing very unsafely. And we certainly don't want to hear of anyone getting injured or losing a friend or an employee due to making mistakes while you're on a tower. So we started Towerone Inc. with that goal and purpose in mind, and that's what's pushed us up to this point. So we've developed a number of training classes and certification classes by OSHA standards and NATE standards to get these guys certified and give them the right information they need so that they remain safe and secure while they're climbing on the towers. Mm-hmm. And then from the classes, we had a lot of feedback and customers saying, what kind of gear do you recommend? What about this and this? So we personally just spent a ton of money buying stuff up to learn about it, to try to get what we thought was our best ideas, and that kind of led us to, well, maybe we could just sell some of that too. So we picked up the gear side within the last 12 months and started offering that to our customers as well. So we sell quite a few different manufacturers of safety climbing equipment.
So pretty much a one-stop shop for tower safety and tower gear, right?
Yeah, since they were so closely related, it was kind of an easy conversion for us. We try to be very careful when we do our trainings that, I would like for them to purchase gear from us, but that's certainly not the intent of the course. So we will explain different types of gear, even things that we do not carry, and the pluses and minuses of that for the customer's benefit. The guys that are using this stuff. A lot of the equipment out there, a number of these companies hasn't seen before or hasn't used, so they're just not familiar with it. So we try to demonstrate a few things, and we get a lot of feedback that says, man, I wish I would have known this years ago. It'd make my life so much easier.
For sure.
Which is good. And that's, we want to make things easier for the guys on the ground and climbing. So
is part of your training not only climbing but rigging and that kind of stuff, safely rigging stuff to hoist up on a tower?
Yeah, we certainly cover that. So primarily right now we have two training courses, a standard and advanced. And the standard goes through all the OSHA requirements for climbing. We add a number of topics that are very WISP specific. So growing up in this industry, we kind of have a lot of vested interest for the WISPs, and we know how tight budgets can be for these guys and how many crazy structures that we end up climbing up just to get internet out to people.
No kidding.
So we've seen and climbed all kinds of really interesting and different types of structures. So we cover a lot of that in our standard course, and then the advanced, we do go through a lot of rigging. We cover mechanical advantage, how to use ropes and pulleys and basically block and tackles, safe ways to do rigging. So we go through a lot of those different types of scenarios for guys. So you don't have the guy on the ground trying to hold up, a 2-foot dish, some cabling, and a standoff that may weigh 100, 150 pounds, and he's trying to hoist it all himself. So trying to do that more safely so that in the event that someone did have to get out of the way quickly, they could do so, and that we wouldn't drop any equipment or or cause injury to anybody.
Right. And what I like about it is the fact that you guys come up from this industry, so you know the crazy things that we do as WISPs. You know, WISP's motto is where there's a will, there's a WISP. But,
yep.
Yeah, we do some unorthodox things for sure, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of it.
Yeah, certainly. And, that's one of the things that we felt was lacking when we went to different training courses. We went through, in developing our course, we've been through nearly a dozen other companies, seeing how they do things and working with them. And most of that's primarily tailored towards cell companies because there are a lot more of those out there. There's a lot more opportunity. So climbing a cell tower is a lot different from climbing a little WISP tower. There's not near the safety cables and backups and documentation out there for the stuff that the WISP run into. So that's kind of where we focus and try to custom tailor our courses towards that.
Now, you talk about, you got courses and stuff. Are these online? Do we come to you for the course? Do you go to us for the course? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So on our website of Toweroneinc.com, we got all our course information listed there. It's a pretty detailed outline of the topics that we cover in that course. And then we do kind of both as far as where the classes are scheduled. We're still building an indoor climbing facility for our warehouse in Fort Wayne, so we can do training classes in the winter when it's 5 degrees out and snowing. We can stay inside and do our training classes there.
Bunch of sissies.
Fort Wayne, yeah, the last one we did. We said, okay, let's go outside and start climbing. These guys putting on their Carhartts and everything else. I said, man, you think we're really tough on you. And we just ended up going downstairs. So our primary facility is in Fort Wayne, so that's where we do most of our classes. But we do quite a bit of traveling as well. So if we get a number of WISP companies together, basically get a large enough class, we try to shoot for 10 to 15 students in a class. We will come on site. So we'll come to their location and do the training courses out there.
Mm-hmm. And I guess 10's the ideal because you get, with 10 people, you get enough one-on-one to make it worth their while. Is that what you're saying? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, we have to have a certain minimum. It's if we have 2 students for us to travel and we're shipping hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of gear. It's quite costly for us to travel to those locations. So up to this point, we don't charge any extra for that. It's included in the course price. So we typically shoot for 10 to 12 in our classes. It gives us a real good size, and we don't try to go for any more than 15. We lose a certain, I guess, personal instruction aspect if you go much more than that. Right. It becomes too much of a classroom, and we really try to personally work with each climber, make sure they're doing things safely, and a lot of the feedback we get is, man, I feel so much more comfortable that I'm not worried about these things. We understand what the equipment is capable of, and we get more of that one-on-one instruction. We've seen from other training companies where they could have 25 to even close to 40 students in a class. And we don't want to go that route personally. We want to keep that pretty close to where the guys can ask questions and take our time to say, hey, what about this? And show us, how they're being safe up on a tower.
You bring up a good point, taking the time. What's a standard class time if, say, I were to come to Fort Wayne and take one of your classes? What am I looking at as an investment of time?
Yeah, and that's a good question, too. As of it's structured right now, the standard course is a 2-day course. So we spend half of each day in the classroom because there's quite a bit of topics to basically uncover and discuss, especially the OSHA regulations. And then the other half of the course would be out on the tower doing practical instruction. So we talk about it for a few hours and then we go do it. And we try to give the guys time and at least ample time to practice multiple things that we discuss in the course.
Mm-hmm.
So the standard is the 2 day. The advanced includes the 3rd day. So we just have another half day of class, another half day of rigging and advanced rescue.
Now, is this like we've always heard it said, drinking by the fire hose, or is it something that you can digest? And because you're training and then you're going doing, do the people come back forgetting a lot, or do they, with your guys' style, are these applicable the day they get back?
Yeah, and that's great question. So the feedback that we get from the guys is, wow, this is a lot of information. And there are other companies that, training companies that draw that out into a 4 and 5 day course. While certainly we could do that, and we have discussed that between the owners at length on what's a good amount of time. OSHA at least says, or Nate says, that to be an authorized climber, it should be a 16-hour course. So we definitely don't want to go any shorter than 2 days. I think there's just too much information, and they would miss out on certain things. But we have had a lot of feedbacks as, man, we could have used another day or two. So that's something that we've been discussing, lengthening that, giving the guys a little bit more time, because there's a lot of different topics that we go over in safety. And it's not just climbing, it's dealing with some other aspects like RF radiation. Since we're dealing with wireless, there's certainly a risk for that. And we've personally had experience from overexposure to radiation from FM towers, and we want to make sure that we educate our students to that as well.
Wow, so you even go so far in depth into giving them the, pros and cons about being around these heavy RF areas.
Yeah, it's not just, hey, I could fall. There's a lot of other things that really can occur. So we try to cover a lot of that. It would be great to go in real depth, but that would be really pushing the 4 to 5 days. And it's tough for companies to let their climbers go, or even if it's the owner itself, to be gone for 4 or 5 days in a course to do that. So we try to make the most of the students' time for that. And then, if they say, okay, we code a lot of stuff in class, we use some of it at our job the next few weeks, and then some of it I forgot. We also are going to be hosting open houses throughout the summer, which we will post on the website. Basically, it's a time for students that have gone through our course. They can come by. We'll provide food and drinks, on a Friday afternoon or something, and they can go through that, retrain on the rescue scenarios, and that's all provided by us. Just something that we would offer to help them refresh things that we've covered in the course.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, that alone is probably worth the cost of investment. Now, you mentioned that, and you've done this before, I imagine, you've gotten where some WISPs have gotten together and hosted a class. How successful is that? In essence, you guys bringing the course to us. And you suggest 10 climbers minimum for doing something like that. How does that usually work out? I mean, do you guys go to a tower that one of the WISPs owns and screw around and climb that thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do quite a bit of casing prior to. So generally we work through a couple different WISP, and they may organize it if they know the other businesses around them, or we get contact information and we set up the dates for them. So we there's a lot of back and forth on legalities, make sure that the WISP that's hosting us isn't liable for any injuries, and not that we've ever had one. We just want to make sure that we don't put any additional liability on someone. But yeah, typically what we've done in the past is we step inside their building, they give us a conference room of some sort to do the classroom training, and then we go out to one of their towers that we own or they own and do the rest of the class out there.
Mm-hmm. And that's
been really successful for us.
Is that more popular than coming out to Fort Wayne? Yeah,
it is. Of course, everyone wants you to come out to their location. location. It's a lot more cost benefit to the business owner because you don't have all the additional training or traveling costs, and additional time away from work as well. So it's been really popular for us. We're running all over the U.S. the next few weeks or a few months. We're going to Texas at the end of this month for a number of weeks, and then we're going out to California in April, and Montana in May, and Illinois in May. So, yeah, it's been very popular for the guys to be able to have us come out to them.
Now, you got people like a couple of WISPs get together and join up and bring you guys out and say it's kind of a regional event. I'm in New Mexico, and I was thinking about this when I met you guys at WISPalooza. What if I got my friendly WISPs around me to come together and do something like that? Would it be, or do you guys look at the region and say, hey, there's someone in southern Colorado that might want to show up to this? Do you invite them to see if that to get your 10 minimum? Because among my fellow WISPs here in New Mexico, I got 3 or 4 other companies that I work with, and Tower Climber's probably 1 or 2, so I couldn't really fill a room, but it would be nice to get you guys here. Do you guys, solicit others that are in the area that might be interested in coming to a training?
Yeah, we certainly do. Matter of fact, we did that with one of the Texas courses. So we had a few people say, hey, I think we can get 4 or 5 together. So we just we reach out to our other contacts that we know in that region or that area, basically within a few hundred miles or driving distance, and say, hey, would you be interested in attending one of these courses that we're putting on? So, yeah, we try to help facilitate, make that happen.
Right. Dennis, do you have any questions?
No, he is pretty much giving us all the great information that his company has to offer. I did see you guys at the WISP America show here in St. Louis, and I'll tell you what, it seemed like you guys were busy. You actually had a beautiful booth, great booth. It really looked real nice. I know lots of people stopped by, so I'm glad you guys came out and had a good time in St. Louis and had a good show.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate that. We put a lot together with the booth because when we were buying gear, you buy a harness, you think it's the right size, you get it in, it doesn't really fit right, or you get some other pulleys or some equipment, and you thought it was a certain size, and it comes in and it's huge. You can't tell from the online pictures. So most of what we were trying to do at the show is really just educate people. This is what the equipment's used for. This is what you're getting when you make the purchase online, so that there were no surprises. So, yeah, we had a great show. It was great getting to talk to a lot of different businesses there, and really looking forward to WISPalooza.
Yeah, I sat through your course at WISPalooza, and I'll tell you what, I gained so much out of that. It was incredible. After that show, I went out and bought $1,000 worth of climbing stuff because my life's not worth anything less. But one of the things I liked, and you guys went through, just briefly touched on at that WISPalooza, was tying knots. Do you guys get involved in doing that a lot in your training? Because that was invaluable to me, and I actually went out and bought a book on how to tie knots.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm kind of a knot nerd. So when the wife is at home watching Dancing with the Stars or whatever TV show she watches, I usually just grab some cordage and practice tying some knots, and we encourage our students to do that as well. But yeah, I mean, instead of relying on certain terminations, I guess you could equate it to Cat 5 ends. When some of us start getting in the industry, we just purchased pre-terminated Cat 5, and once we learn how to do our own, wow, that makes it so much easier. So knots are very important to what we do in rigging and also life safety. So we teach a number of those in the course and make sure that guys get a firm grasp on that.
Right. I think it's probably a huge part of, like you said, being safe on a tower. Knowing the right tool, right knot. It's like having the right tool in the toolbox. Instead of using Kleins as a hammer, use a hammer.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you're hanging on those ropes, your life is dependent on it, or it is your backup safety. Knots reduce the strength of that rope quite a bit. anywhere from 20.
That. Yes.
Yeah, anywhere from 20 to 50%. So, the knots that we use to tie our shoes are actually really inefficient and reduce the strength rating of those ropes quite a bit. So, it's important to know what ones to use and to use them properly.
Right. Like when I was at the Wispalooza at your training, you guys talked about strapping, and, if you fold it in half, you reduce your effective load-bearing weight on it half or something like that. You go through that in the classes as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. Basically what they're going to run into, especially if they're setting it up as an anchor point that they're going to hang off of, or they're rigging equipment off of, or it's going to see a pretty good load. It's really important to understand, hey, we didn't just wrap a piece of rope around this and it's fine. What more specifically is happening with that? So,
yeah, the physics behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could really dive into a lot more. That gets into the 4 and 5 day course. But we just give them enough that it makes sense to the guys coming through the course, and they can take that back to their workplace. Because you mentioned taking it back and using concepts that are applicable. To me, that's the number one goal. If I can go through a course and I memorized all the OSHA rules, but none of it really made sense for my job, I think that's a failure on our part. So the whole point is to learn how to be safe and do it for your job that you're climbing all the time. So we want to make sure that everything we do is very practical, and they can use that as they climb.
Right. Now, from sitting in on your training at Wispalooza, you guys really have crafted this towards WISPs, and that's what's really cool, because like you said at the beginning of the show, we do some crazy stuff here. And even though we do crazy stuff, we want to be safe because we want to go home every night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's our main thing, is we never want to hear about another WISP getting injured. So we kind of really harp on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything else about Towerone you want to tell our listening audience? This is your chance to brag about you guys.
We kind of just dive into all kinds of little different things. I would guess one thing that we have been considering is basically for some of the stuff that we do behind the scenes is we have been looking into creating decals for customer equipment, basically that says something you could stick on your radio or dish that says property of such and such company, contact this number. So that's something we've been looking into, just kind of a small extra that we can provide for businesses.
Well, yes, and that kind of ties into what you guys do at Wispalooza. Tell us about the shirts you guys make. They're all custom, guys.
Yeah, so a number of years ago, some of the executive members of WISPA came to Lee and said, hey, we're buying these shirts and we're buying these signs from someone else. Do you know of a better or more effective way that we could do that? So he said, sure, I'll do it. So we picked up that side of the business to basically, it was initially to help out WISPA, and kind of got some additional equipment as we got into it to just make some custom shirts for guys to do that at the shows, and then provide those for them. So we do some shirts. We also do shirts for some companies. They may put in an order for a few hundred shirts to stock in their stock room to hand out to employees or customers of theirs. So that's kind of a side portion of our business.
Some marketing components. And so, like, if we're interested in that, would we send you our logo of what we expect, and then send you a pile of cash, and then we get a bunch of shirts with the logo on it? And you're saying something that I like too, and I've done this on my own stuff. On the stuff that I sell, I put the name of the company on the dish with a sticker. You guys are looking into doing that too. That's pretty good. I mean, not only tower safety, but WISP marketing. You guys are involved in a lot.
Yeah, it's something that we have done in our businesses, and we thought, it might be kind of neat to have, if other companies want to do that as well. So the equipment to do what we're looking for is pretty substantial investment. Mm-hmm. So I guess we're just asking around to see if that's of interest to anybody. But just always looking for something. I don't like to sit down. I don't like to sleep. So if I could work 24 hours a day, it'd be awesome.
You don't have any children, huh?
Yeah, I got a little 1-year-old. The wife certainly has a different opinion on my work ethic. But
yeah. And Dennis, sounds like you've got a young one coming in too. Your first, right?
Yeah, about a week.
A week?
2 to 3 weeks, yeah, if that.
Congrats.
Soon as he or she is ready to pop out.
New papa.
Yeah.
That's great. Certainly get in your sleep now, because it will go away very soon.
Gotcha.
Well, if that's all that Nick's got for us, Towerone, guys, I've sat in on their show. It was very informative. The simple knots that I learned to tie the figure 8, that's been a lifesaver for me. And I've been training my guys how to do it. Of course, I'm not certified to climb anything, and I'm the only one that climbs stuff, but I definitely want to get involved with Towerone because, like Nick said, they're crafting this towards WISP businesses, and they understand our business model. We don't make $100 million every year. Maybe some of us do, but it's crafted towards us low-income guys that want to work safe. So if you guys are looking for some tower safety and tower gear, Towerone are the people that have the stuff and the training, and I look forward to doing business with you guys. Hopefully I can scare up some guys out here in New Mexico to put on a training, or if not, just come out to visit you guys and see your place and learn how to do this stuff safe.
Well, it's something you can always do. I've done this with training classes in the past for microchip training that we do. Is maybe you might want to get with Towerone, do a tentative scheduled date, maybe 2-3 months out, and basically wait for until about 32 days or so prior to the course, and basically have Towerone put it on their website, you put it on your website. The whole idea is we want to try to get everybody there, and as many people as we can, because there may be people outside the WISP industry wants to do the training. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? But you make it more of a public training to where hopefully you can get enough people to come. And once it hits that 36-day mark or so, someone makes hey, we have enough, or no, we don't, and you make sure you just tell everybody, hey, you do not book your travel, do not do anything until you hear from us from this date, so that we make sure that the course will be on. Usually 32 days, I think, is usually the date where the pricing starts going up on airfare, etc. And hotel really shouldn't be any much different, if at all, for that type of stuff. So, I have done that with some customers where, hey, we have 4 or 5 people that we want to do training with, but we want you to come down because it's going to be cheaper. I've done training for some companies that they've had 5 or 6 people, and we turn it around and we sell enough seats that they basically, other than paying for some lunches, they basically get their people trained for free because they resold the course. Uh-huh. I don't know if Towerone will let you resell it, but the ideal is still sound, is that all you can do is put it out there and see if you can get enough, and make sure people are informed about the course, that hey, yes, you're putting your money down. If the course doesn't happen, we'll refund it, but there is a date at which you should not be booking travel, or you should have at least an ability to cancel that travel and get a credit, or insurance or something like that. So,
Nick, have you done something like that ever?
Yeah, Dennis, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. We typically schedule things 3 months out, and yeah, we do put it on the website. We do get people that aren't WISP, so some fire and service personnel go through our courses once in a while. We do have rock climber guys want to go through our courses just to get an idea of how we do things. So getting it out, at least on the site, and we talk to a number of other channels to get that exposure to build a class, if we can get enough interest in that area. So yes, typically we're around the 3 to 4 month out mark for training, and we haven't had to cancel any classes as of yet. We usually get enough to go ahead and do that. But yeah, we certainly work with guys if we had to say, hey, it didn't work out this time, we'll refund or move it to another course. It's something we try to work with the customers on.
Mm-hmm. Huh. So I guess my question to you is, look at your website. If there's something close by, like say you have a interested party in Amarillo doing it, just look for that, and then I could probably go there, or El Paso or something like that. Is that kind of how
absolutely.
You do it? Okay.
Yeah, yep. You talk to basically get a few businesses together and say, hey, I think we're interested, and then give us a ring, and we'll put out our feelers and see what other interest we can drum up.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Well, Nick, I appreciate you being on the show in such short notice. I think it's been a really good, informative show about what you guys do and how you help ISPs. Something I'm definitely going to be looking into myself. Dennis, you got anything else?
I think we're good. Hopefully, I apologize. I do have something else here. Let me pull this up. Since we're getting ready to wrap up the show, I want to make sure that everybody knows next week we're going to have, Liz Creekmore from IntelliPath coming on. That's the 18th, next week, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central, as normal. And then we have, I believe it is ET Industries?
Yes.
Is that right? I mean, pull up our show schedule. Keep in mind, you can always go to ispradio.com, and that will tell you our show schedule. ET Industries Thomas, do you know how to pronounce that last name?
Economu.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds great. Thomas Economu from ET Industries. And then that is on March 25th. And then on April 15th, which is a little ways out, we have Simon from Power Code coming in and is going to field some questions. And I believe we will hopefully have a call-in number here next week as well for anybody that has questions. So we'll be able to take inbound calls on the show live, which is always fun. Other than that, that's about all that's going on right now. The big news is still the report and order. It's still up in there.
Yeah, so we just sit and wait, I guess.
Yep, and not much we can do.
But don't give up, guys. Keep working it. It's all worth it, believe me. Well, thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate you being on the show. And Dennis, thanks for producing the show and being co-host.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
You guys have a good week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.